So I want to remind you my text from the Christian scriptures today from Matthew chapter 7, that by their fruits you shall know them. Nicole wanted to know whether we could eat this after the service, so this is all yours, Nicole. Good trees bear good fruits, and by your fruits you shall know them. Now, people ask me from time to time, you have atheists who come to your church. Now, why would somebody who doesn't believe in God want to come to church? And that's what I want to try to answer this morning. And initially I think of Ira Birnbaum, who says that his father never missed a service when he was growing up. And one day he decided to ask his dad, he said, "Dad, why do you go to temple every week since you don't believe in God?" And his father, he said, "Son, Goldberg goes to temple every week to talk to God. I go to temple every week to talk to Goldberg." There are a lot of reasons why people go to church and serve religious services, and one is to see their friends, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that is not all there is to it. Before I tell you some of the reasons why atheists and agnostics and others have told me that they love coming to this church, I want to tell you why it's so important to me. Why it's so important to me that I'm the minister of a church where believers and non-believers love to attend. Right? You may know that my mother was raised Catholic and my father was raised Jewish. As a boy, my brother and I would spend some years celebrating Easter with our Italian Catholic relatives, and other years celebrating Passover with our Jewish relatives. You know, our grandmothers plied our bellies and our hearts with matzo ball soup and lasagna. I wore a dark suit to my Italian grandfather's huge Catholic funeral in a cathedral in Hartford, Connecticut. And I wore a yarmulke into the synagogue for the funeral of my other grandfather. What I discovered once I grew up was that my body learned to love Italian food. And my spirit learned to love Judaism. As a matter of fact, at one time I thought I wanted to become a rabbi. I actually went to Israel and I studied intensely for a few months about Judaism. I love the singing. I love the rituals that Jewish families do at home on Friday nights with their children, with their grandparents, with everybody together lighting candles, singing songs. I love the prayers. I love the values that Judaism teaches. But eventually it became clear to me through many experiences throughout my life that because my mother was not Jewish, that I would always be an outsider in the Jewish community. You may know that in Judaism, they believe if your mother is Jewish, then you're Jewish, and if your mother's not Jewish, then you're not Jewish, right? Unless you go through an elaborate conversion process. Now, these days in Reformed Judaism here in America, they've become a lot more inclusive of the children of mixed marriages. But I learned that even if I converted and became a Reformed rabbi, that most rabbis, especially those in Israel, but all over the world, would not accept my conversion as legitimate, or accept that I was even a Jew, let alone a rabbi. And what became unmistakable for me was that under no circumstances did I want to feel like a second-class citizen in my own religion. That's why I'm completely committed to making this an all-inclusive church, where nobody who wants to be here is ever made to feel second-class. Whether gay or straight, Christian or atheist or Buddhist or Jew, Democrat or Republican, rich or poor, young or old, citizen or undocumented person, in this place we are all equally loved, equally welcome, without exception. Amen? All right. Which means this is a house of prayer for all people, even people who don't pray. and speaking for atheists and agnostics and rationalists and humanists and skeptics, if they're going to be part of a church, then they want one where their non-belief is a position to be considered, not a problem to be cured. There are a lot of reasons besides belief that make people come to church. One of the reasons that all of us come is to interrupt our lives regularly. Right? To stop doing what we do every day long enough to adore, love, and contemplate the mystery of our lives. It's something that my colleague, Reverend Kay Northcutt, who used to teach preaching at Phillips Theological Seminary here in Tulsa, called deliberate attentiveness. We break into the normally scheduled programming of our lives continually and constantly in order to move self from the center of things. To be relieved for a while of the powerful pull of self-centeredness. To disregard our ego for 1 hour a week to be part of something larger. Church is, or at least it should be, countercultural. We live in a culture that tells us 5,000 times in different ways every day, think only about your own needs. And yet the church says, love one another. The world around us says, get whatever you can get and then get a little more. And the church says, give all that you can give to those who need it the most and then stretch and give a little more. It's countercultural. And one of the reasons that people come to church is to learn how to share and to learn how to love. A man in his late 50s walked into one of my colleagues' offices one day. His name was Bill, and he became a venture capitalist after making an unbelievable amount of money, first working for other people, then having a number of his own businesses. Bill is one of those people that it would seem didn't have a worry in the world. He had more money than God. For those of you who don't believe in God, that's just an expression. It means more money than he could spend in a lifetime. He also had a beautiful young wife, but their marriage was ending. It was his third divorce. He had an adult son and an adult daughter who wouldn't talk to him, or when they did, it felt like they were talking to a stranger. He wasn't around much when they were growing up. He was so focused on success. It turns out that Bill had been so focused on his career that he didn't pay enough attention to the most important people in his life. He told my colleagues, I've proven to myself that I can become rich, I can be successful, I can have anything I want, except for the one thing I want the most. Unfortunately, this is not that uncommon, even for the rest of us who don't become multimillionaires. That we spend so much time in our early lives, especially striving for success of one kind or another, that we can become a failure in the ways that are most important. We shall know them by their fruit. And money is not fruit. It can be good fertilizer, but it's not fruit. What became clear to Bill after so many years was that success was no longer as important to him as significance. He'd been working for success. Now he wanted to work towards significance. He wanted his life to matter. He wanted to make a difference. He wanted to bear some good fruit. But when we're on the freight train of our lives, and every day things are moving and changing, and we're just trying to keep all the balls in the air at home and at work, all the clothes off the floor, all the plants watered and mouths fed, we need to interrupt our lives regularly for at least an hour a week so that we can remember what's most important. And so that we can consider who we're becoming before we become someone we wish we weren't. Or even after we've become someone we wish we weren't, before it's too late to turn it around. Another reason to come to church is to get a backbone, to get some courage. Right? Church pushes us to stand up for what's right, to speak out when someone makes a racist comment or a homophobic joke or a sexist remark, to have a backbone, not to take a job that we don't believe in despite the money, not to swallow disrespect from anyone, whether they're our boss or our spouse or our neighbor. One of the reasons to come to church is that we're in the backbone business. There is a world out there that can tear us apart. It takes courage to be generous. It takes courage to be honest. It takes courage to survive this life with some dignity left. Where else can you go to cultivate courage? Right? The health club? I don't think so. We can get some neck bone at Wanda's, but we got to go to church to get a backbone. All right. Somebody's getting hungry. Part of this idea of deliberate attentiveness is also about learning to keep time. Learning to keep time. Right? We live in an age when we count things in nanoseconds. We tweet, we text. If we can't Google it fast enough, we Bing it. Right? I mean, here we are, we're sitting at our computers or on our phones, right? And we're asking a question and we're expecting to get a list of resources from the best universities, the best hospitals, the Library of Congress, and all the Library at Alexandria in Egypt. We're waiting for a list on all this stuff, and it takes more than 30 seconds. We get frustrated. Right? We drive 75 or 80 miles an hour, and other people pass us by like we're standing still. Right? Going to church helps us learn to keep time, to remember the seasons. Author Elie Wiesel says that we're in the midst of a time quake. Right? The speed of life in the 21st century is shaking our foundations, and a lot of things of value and beauty are falling through the cracks. So we stop for an hour a week to slow down, to sing, to listen to live music, to sit together in silence, to remember how to keep time, how to be present in the moment, and also conscious of what's eternal, how to keep time. Another reason to come to church besides belief in God, or in addition to belief in God, is, according to Reverend Northcutt, is to undo television's myths. Right? That the fittest survive, and happiness is limitless and squishy. Right? And that consuming is inherently good, and that property and wealth and power are more important than people. We have in our homes these screens that bring into our private space a complicated and colorful set of values and opinions every day. And most people are not looking for a religion that tells them that television is evil. We're looking for a religion that helps us sort out the countless values and opinions that we confront every day. Which ones are going to offer us a lasting legacy? Which ones are going to help lead us towards love, towards meaning, towards happiness? Now, unlike TV, in church, people get old, people go bald. We keep it real. And that is what I've understood from atheists and other skeptics and non-believers that is most important, is to keep it real. That's their bottom line. They want a church that can marvel at the discoveries of DNA and the pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope. They want a church that is not threatened by science, but one that respects it and utilizes it to understand the world. They want a church that allows them to speak their minds, share their doubts, and that treats disbelief as a position to be taken seriously, not a problem to overcome. Jesus said, we can know a tree by its fruits. Good trees bear good fruit. Right? That's why at All Souls, we don't exclude anyone because of their beliefs or their disbeliefs, as long as the values that you cherish lead you to courage and compassion and connection. If they don't, then those beliefs are out. You're going to get challenged here if your beliefs don't lead you to love and to service and to courage. Right? If your beliefs make you feel superior to others, if your beliefs encourage exclusiveness, if they fill children's heads with fears of unknown calamities and guilt, if they separate rather than unify people, or if they cause you to put blinders on in the face of facts or in the face of other people's experience, then you'll get challenged here to go deeper. Because we are in the process of building a church community unlike any that exists anywhere in the world. We have Pentecostal Christians and atheists in the same church. We have Jews and Hindus and black and white and gay and straight and young and old and much, much more. We are an intergenerational community of almost 2,000 members here in Tulsa, and there are people around the country and across the world who are joining us now through our internet ministries. Right? There are people in Russia, in China, in Europe, in Australia, and Africa who are worshiping with us right now. Live. Hello. We can't see you, but we're glad you can see us. Welcome. This summer, we've been receiving letters and emails from all over. It's been amazing. We learned that we have over 5,000 downloads of our sermons every month on iTunes and on YouTube. The podcast of the sermon. 5,000. That's more people are listening to our sermons out there than are even coming and listening to them in here. And we got to change that. So you got to invite some people so we can fill this place up. We'll do 3-4 services on Sunday morning if we need to. Some people we've even received some checks. Some people have sent money. Well, not a lot. But they wanted to say, it said thank you, and it said, I want to be a part of what you're creating, because it's bigger than Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're reaching across all these differences to work together to rebuild homes here in our community, to teach children in our public schools. We're supporting a school and an orphanage in Uganda and Africa, and a number of microcredit banks, over 30 that we've created around the world, giving microloans to some of the poorest among the poor. We're working to counteract racism and homophobia and all forms of superiority. And even atheists want to be a part of that. Right? In fact, they're often the instigators. One of the things that I love about atheists is the fact that because they don't believe in prayer, and they don't believe that God has a plan to clean up this mess, they get busy. Working for justice, working for equal rights, trying to end poverty. Underneath all of our beliefs and all of our different ways of looking at the world, we're all just trying to get through this life. My friend, Reverend Karen Anderson, I think said it best this summer when she said, the people coming to our churches are not just asking anymore, do I have to leave my brain at the door? They're also asking, do I have to leave my pain at the door? They want to know, can this church community hold my grief, my longing, my failures, my shame? And as someone who has lost a child, and has been held in the arms of the members of this church and the ministry of this church, I can tell you that this church allows us to not leave our brains or our pain or our shame at the door. It helps us bring it in, it helps us hold it, and it helps us transform it. Amen? Amen. We are reimagining religion in our times. Right? And based on the letters that I'm receiving, we're helping to ignite a movement. Even people who don't like the word church are coming. Right? And The fact is that a community this inclusive requires us all to deal with a little bit of discomfort around language and style and things like that, but that's a small price to pay. Because there's a world out there that has the power to rip our lives apart. Right? My friend calls it a materialistic, classist, consumerist, shallow, selfist, status-obsessed, indifferent, violent, economically unstable culture. A world that threatens to disconnect us from everything we hold dear. Everything that feeds us and gives us life. And we can't do it alone. Or even if we could, who would want to? So when the world says do for yourself, we'll say love one another. When the world says it's all about what you get, we'll say it's all about what you give. When the world starts calling people illegal and alien, we'll start calling them my brother and my sister. And when the world teaches me, we'll teach community, community, community. And when people start saying believers are good and non-believers are dangerous, then we'll say, by their fruits we shall know them. Amen? Amen.